and welcome to this special presentation of Rajya Sabha TV from inside the Parliament House complex, Question Hour, wherein we bring you the important questions asked by the members on the floor of the House and the answers given by the government. I am Vishal Dahiya, and with me is my colleague Kruti Mishra.
Thank you so much, Vishal. So let's begin the Question Hour show. And the first question that we've picked up is from member Wansuk Siam. And she has asked the Home Affairs Minister whether India has now become the 9th country to introduce a sex offender registry maintaining a database of names, addresses, fingerprints, DNA samples and Aadhaar numbers of persons convicted of sexual offences. A very, very important question.
Well, yes, indeed, Kruti, this is an important question, and in fact, the Ministry of Home Affairs has given a detailed answer to this. The answer says that the MHA has launched the National Database on Sexual Offenders, which is known as NDSO, on 20th of September 2018. NDSO, which is exclusively available to law enforcement agencies, uses data maintained by states and union territories on e-prisons, the National Prison Information Portal. E-prisons maintains data on crime and criminal record of all the prisoners. NDSO is one of the measures taken by the government under interoperable criminal justice system for strengthening criminal justice system. In investigation of rape cases, NDSO facilitates tracking of accused persons and ready availability of information on repeat and habitual sex offenders with the law enforcement agencies for quick and efficient investigation and speedy delivery of justice. The next question is to the Ministry of Commerce and Industries, and this one is from member Ahmed Hassan. He goes on to ask the government whether it has made procurement of goods compulsory for ministries and departments from GEM, that is Government E-Marketplace.
Well, the government has also given a detailed reply here, and the government goes on to say that as per rules 149 of General Finance Rules, the procurement of goods and services by ministries and departments will be mandatory for goods and services available on Government E-Marketplace. In order to have a transparent and efficient, technology-driven national public procurement system, GEM has been set up as a 100% government-owned Section 8 company under Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India, which is an end-to-end online marketplace for central and state government ministries, departments, central and state public sector undertakings and autonomous institutions and local bodies for procurement of common use goods and services. Price on GEM, as in a marketplace, is dynamic, and tools for establishing price reasonability are made available for buyers for their procurement purposes. The next question that we've picked up is from member Sanjay Singh, who represents Aam Aadmi Party in the upper house, and he has asked this question to the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, and he goes on to ask whether the ministry has constituted a special task force to draft national e-commerce policy.
Well, Kruti, the national e-commerce policy has been talked about a lot in the public domain of late, and the government in its answer says that a think tank on framework for national policy on e-commerce was constituted by Department of Commerce, and a task force under the think tank was set up for preparing recommendations for India's national policy on e-commerce. Now, the think tank was further subdivided into various subgroups. These subgroups met during 20th to 22nd of June 2018 and discussed wide-ranging issues such as cross-border data flow, taxation, trade facilitation and logistics, consumer confidence, intellectual property rights and future technology, foreign direct investment and competition issues as well. The task force in its meeting considered cross-cutting issues. Participation from ministries, departments involved in various aspects of e-commerce was requested for the task force meeting to finalize the draft recommendations emerging from the subgroup meetings. The deliberations of the task force and the subgroups were then summarized into subgroup reports, which further led to the draft recommendations from the committee. The next question is to the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, and this one is from Dr. Sanjay Singh, who represents Congress Party in the upper house, and his question to the government is whether there is any policy regarding closure of petrol pumps in the country and replacing petrol with alternative fuels by 2025.
The government says that there is no plan for closure of petrol pumps and replacing them with alternate fuels. However, with an objective of increasing energy security, meeting the emissions norm and addressing the environmental concerns, the Government of India has taken several steps as well as the oil marketing companies, and these include production and blending of ethanol and biodiesel with petrol and diesel respectively, provision of CNG facility at all the ROs and provision of charging stations for electric vehicles at ROs.
Well, my colleague Kriti Mishra spoke to Dr. Sanjay Singh of the Congress Party a short while back on his response to the answer given by the government to his question in the House. Let's listen in.
That's right. Dr. Sanjay Singh is joining us on the Question Hour show. Welcome to Rajya Sabha TV, sir. You've asked a very important question on replacing the conventional fuels with alternative fuels. How important is that for sustainable development?
Whatever the hazard we are seeing in the environment today, whether it's a Delhi or any country, cities, towns in the country, I think pollution and environment is a real big hazard for human life. So I had asked why you can fly a couple of aircrafts by your substitute fuels, why not to make sure that we get all over the country? So that was my question.
The government also talks about the expansive plans that it has to promote alternative fuels. Your take on that? Yeah,
my submission is today the country is definitely full of industries, full of lot of hazard which is for human life. So I was very curious to ask the government whether they have got enough substitute fuel so that we can provide in all over the vehicles in all over the country.
And what is your take on government's answer?
Government says something in public and in the House they absolutely talk totally different. Government of India today is showing that they are doing everything for the sake of human life and human health. But answer was absolutely depressive.
Right, so it is absolutely pertinent to push alternative fuels in a big way for sustainable development.
Yes, you're right.
Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your inputs with us.
Thank you.
And now let's move on to the next question, and this one has been asked by member KVP Ramchandra Rao, and his question pertains to the Ministry of Home Affairs again, and he asks whether it is a fact that government is planning to use space technology in border management and check intruders.
Well, the government in its answer says that it has identified several areas for use of space technology in improving border management, and these are island development, border security communication and navigation, GIS and operations planning system, and border infrastructure development. Now, to execute the project, a short, medium and long-term plan has been approved for implementation in 5 years in coordination with the Indian Space Research Organization ISRO and the Ministry of Defence. The next question is to the Ministry of Labour and Employment, and this one is from the member Ami Yagnik, who goes on to ask the government whether it has ratified the guidelines of ILO regarding the existing labour laws in the country.
The government has given a very elaborate answer here, and the government goes on to say that the principal function of the ILO is to take care of the interests of the workers by means of setting up the international labour standards in the form of conventions, recommendations and protocols, which are discussed and adopted at the International Labour Conference of the ILO every year. ILO conventions are international treaties open for ratification by member countries. Ratification of an ILO convention is a voluntary process. India has so far ratified 47 conventions and 1 protocol out of 189 ILO conventions, including 6 out of 8 core conventions and 3 out of 4 priority or governance conventions. The next question has been asked by member Ripun Bora, and this one pertains to the Ministry of Civil Aviation, and Mr. Bora has asked whether India is third largest global flyer with 16.15 crore people travelling in 2017 in comparison to 13.1 crore in the year 2016.
Well, the Civil Aviation Ministry in its answer says that as per the International Air Transport Association, that is IATA, the Indian domestic market for air travel in terms of passenger tickets is the third largest globally. Total scheduled passengers, domestic and international, for the year 2017 was 17.6 crore in comparison with 15.3 crore for the year 2016. As per the records available with the Directorate General of Civil Aviation, that is DGCA, scheduled Indian carriers had net operating revenues of 2,451 crores in 2016-17 and 913 crore in 2017-18. No study has been carried out by the government on any bad debt in the sector.
So these were the important questions and answers in this edition of Question Hour.
Our colleagues Arvind Singh and Akhilesh Suman will bring you some more questions on the other side of the break. Keep watching Rajya Sabha TV.